Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great week and you're enjoying some nice summer weather like we have today. And I want to start today by reading from a scripture from the book of Revelation, chapter 3. And in this chapter, Jesus is communicating with different churches. And in this particular section that I'm about to read you, he's speaking to the angel of the church of Laodicea, telling them that they were lukewarm, so nasty that of a temperature that he just wanted to spew them out of his mouth. A church that was neither on fire for God, nor had they gone completely cold. And because they were just in the middle, God was not happy. But he gives them hope in Revelations 3 and 20, where he says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him and he with me." And today, drawing on the concept of this passage, I want to speak to you on the subject, knock, knock. And appropriately, I'm going to start today with a joke, although you can be grateful that it's not a knock-knock joke. It's a joke that I've heard my father tell that includes this particular scripture that I just read. The story goes that there was a pastor who was doing some outreach to some members of his church, and he was checking in on them and seeing how they were doing, and things were going well until he got to one particular house where it was clear that someone was home. The lights were on, there was a car in the driveway, all the signs pointed to somebody being present. But despite the clear indication that someone was home, the pastor knocked several times and he waited at the door and no one came to answer. So the pastor took out his business card and wrote down on the back of it, Revelations 3 and 20, and stuck it in the door. Now, Revelations 3 and 20, as we just learned, reads, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and spend some time with him," etc. You know the rest. And that Sunday, as the pastor was counting the money that was collected in the offering plate, he found that card that he had stuck to the door. But the saint had added a scripture beneath it. Genesis 3 and 10, which reads, "I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked." Now that joke is mostly for comedic value, but not entirely. This scripture from Revelations 3 and 20 is Jesus letting us know, listen, I'm right outside your door knocking away, and if you hear me and open the door, I'll stick around. There's a couple things that we can take from this passage. First of all, there's a difference between standing outside a door and knocking on it. Sometimes we say, Jesus is standing at the door of your heart and he's waiting for you to open it. But listen, I can stand at a door all day, and if I don't at least knock and ring the doorbell, no one will come to the door. I've got to actually knock on the door to get their attention. And Jesus is not just waiting for you to let him in. He's actively trying to call to you to let him in. This isn't Jesus saying, listen, I knocked a couple times and now I'm just kind of standing here, hands in my pockets, waiting for somebody to come to the door, wondering if anyone is home. No, Jesus is continually knocking. He's constantly trying to get your attention. I don't know if you understand this, but Jesus wants a relationship with you. He wants to be in a relationship with you. He is actively knocking, saying, if you let me in, we can have a grand old time. We can sit around the table and commune with each other. And what does Jesus knocking at the door look like? Maybe it's someone in your life who's a Christian that has been witnessing to you and inviting you to church, or maybe it's music that uplifts Jesus that you've been hearing, or maybe it's a scripture that you saw online, or maybe it's the beauty of God's creation that's inviting you to look to something greater, or maybe there's that feeling in your heart that there must be more to life than this, that there must be something higher, or maybe it's a dream that you can't quite make sense of. I don't know what it looks like for you, but know this, that Jesus is knocking. And if you just tune out some of the distractions that you've got going on in your life right now and actually start listening, then maybe you and him could have the relationship he's asking you to have. Sometimes I think we don't realize how much Jesus wants a relationship with us. He really loves you. He really wants to spend time with you. And that leads me to the second point of this passage, where Jesus says, if you let me in, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and dine with you. The devil wants you to think that Jesus wants to come in your life and just upset everything, that he's just going to come in and he's the type of house guest who's going to come in and say, wow, your house really stinks. You really need to get your act together. No. Jesus is the kind of house guest who goes to the kitchen table and says, let's have a meal together. Let's have a good time. You know how important eating meals together is for a family? Families who have dinner together are tighter as a unit. They have a sense of closeness. And you notice that when people are in a relationship, oftentimes that one of the main activities they do together is eating. As a couple, at least at the beginning of their relationship, but quite often for a long time, eating meals together is something that's important to a couple to stay together. And typically if one were to say, I'm going on a date, most people would assume that food is somehow involved. Eating with someone, especially one-on-one, it is an intimate activity. And Jesus does not just want to be an acquaintance of yours. He wants to be someone who you have an intimate, close, personal relationship with, and someone who you can spend quality time with. So what's preventing you from opening up the door to Jesus? Well, going back to the joke I told in the beginning, perhaps like that saint in the church, it's shame. I hear Jesus knocking, but I'm not in a place right now to open the door. I'm not doing the sort of thing that Jesus is going to like. My house is not clean enough yet for Jesus to step inside. I don't know if I look how I'm supposed to look. I don't know if I'm ready for company. And just pause for a second and realize that Jesus is not looking for you to be perfect, and right from the get-go, and Jesus wants to help you get to where you need to be, but he does not expect you to already be there when you first meet him. There's a song by Israel and New Breed that says, I love the way that you embrace broken people like me. If there was no brokenness in your life, then Jesus, who is the master of fixing brokenness, would have nothing to accomplish in your life. Your testimony can start today. Your deliverance can start today. Your healing from shame can start in this moment right now. Jesus stands at the door and he knocks, and you don't have to tidy yourself up and put on your best clothes before you come and respond. You can just respond however you look right now. And no matter what's going on, and regardless of how messy your house is, you can just go open that door and say, Jesus, I invite you into my life. I'm sorry that I've ignored your voice up until this point. I'm sorry that I've ignored your knock, but I want you in here now. And Jesus isn't going to be offended that you didn't respond to him before. He isn't going to yell at you for rejecting him all this time. He isn't going to say, you were here the whole time and you didn't answer me. Didn't you hear me knocking? He's just going to say, let's go talk about this. Let's go have a meal. Let's spend some time together. Let me stay around here for a while and let's figure this out. Your life is not messy enough to scare Jesus away. He already knows what is behind the door to your life, and yet he still knocks anyway. And your response to him knocking should not be to run away from the door in fear, but to open it up and invite him in with open arms. If you're watching this devotion today, then as I come to a close, I want you to take a second and talk to Jesus. Listen for that knock at your door right now. Just the fact that you're watching this devotion and have made it this far is evidence that you hear some kind of knock at the door of your heart. And if you would talk to him and let him know that you want him to enter into your life, that you will respond to his knocking, then you will have a time of fellowship with Jesus and a time of intimacy and love that you'll never have anywhere else. I believe that Jesus is knocking right now. Are you going to be the one who will hear and answer? I'm just going to take a second and pray for you today, if you don't mind. Lord, I pray right now for everyone who's watching this devotion right now, God, that you would, Lord, place a desire in them, God, to go and open up that door. You're knocking, Lord. You want to get in touch with us, Lord. You want to have communion with us, Lord, and you want us to have a time of devotion with you, Jesus. But we have to be willing to open up that door despite the shame of what we've kept inside, Lord, and allow you to just enter in. Lord, I invite you into my heart today. I invite you into my life today, and I pray, Lord, come and work through me. Thank you for joining me for devotion today, and I hope it was a blessing. Have a wonderful day.